So today, even in the middle of Lent, I'm going to start my sermon with a cartoon. I bet you didn't expect a cartoon in Lent, but I'm going to do it anyway. So here we go. I hope you can read it, but I'll read it anyway. This is from For Better or Worse. There's a girl lying on the floor looking through a window. She sees a sunbeam. Look, Mom, there's a sunbeam coming through the window. Doesn't it look like something you can touch? I'm pretending it's a piece of cloth that angels' gowns are made of. Now I'm pretending it's a magic slide. Now I'm pretending it's a movie projector. You can see neat things in a sunbeam, can't you, Mom? Uh-huh. And a few minutes ago, all I saw was dust. What we have depends on how we look at it. Do we have a bunch of dust? Or do we have something miraculous, something imaginative, something that we can use in a new way to glorify God? I've been thinking a lot about dust lately. I have been cleaning out my basement. A tricky proposition to go into the basement at any time. But yesterday I moved a whole bunch of cardboard and took it to the recycling center. My kids have been good about going through their old toys, which have collected dust. I don't know about your kids or grandkids, but there's sometimes a pile of stuffed animals and toys in the corner or in a cabinet that seem to not get touched for a long time. They collect dust. And so we've been talking about taking these things that we don't use, these things that we don't see as having any worth, and giving them away to donation centers or to kids who might use them in a new and creative way. This cartoon also makes me think of my son. When I was a kid, I collected comic books. I may have mentioned that before. Sorry if that gets redundant, but I love comic books. I love superheroes. So I collected all these comic books, and when I was a kid, we all thought that one day, these comic books were going to be worth a lot of money. Most of them now are worth less than I paid for them. But I still have them. I'm holding on to them, just in case this treasure is worth something someday. Just in case. I've got them in boxes in my closet, collecting dust. So sometimes we go to the comic book store and there's a free comic book day in May coming up, so look for that. But anyway, when we go, I try to get my son interested in comics. And he sort of is, and my daughter sort of is. But my son's into Pokemon cards. He loves the Pokemon cartoon. So when we go, he brings his own money and he buys a few cards. And the last time we went, he bought 3 cards. And I don't know what they were, Charizard or something. But the one he got, he said, I got this one, and I'm going to give this to my friend. Because I told him I was going to get him a card. And I said, you just spent $3 on that card. Like, aren't you going to keep it and play with it for a while? He said, no, I got this for my friend. I'm going to give it to him. What we have, what we collect, how we can use what we have depends on how we look at it. Today in the Gospel, we have a cast of characters. We have Jesus, who you may have heard of. We have Mary, and we have Lazarus. Lazarus, very recently, was raised from the dead by Jesus in the Gospel of John. And now Jesus is having dinner with Lazarus. And Mary is the sister of Lazarus and Martha. Martha is there serving, preparing the food in the kitchen, getting things ready. And Mary is there, and what does she do? She takes some oil, some fragrant oil, and she anoints Jesus' feet, washes his feet with her hair. She does this thing out of love for Jesus. She knows who Jesus is. and she understands what Jesus is about to do. The last character in our story today is Judas. And Judas sees this act of devotion, this act of love, and he focuses on the thing. He focuses on the fragrant perfume, because this nard is a rare oil. It is a very expensive fragrance. What I found on the internet, which I know you can't always trust, but was that the nard is made from a plant found in the Himalayas of China. It came from far away. It's very expensive. And Judas says, you could have sold this for 300 denarii, and you're putting it on Jesus' feet? Now, does anybody know what 300 denarii is worth today? No? You haven't kept up with your conversion rate for denarius to dollars? Well, me neither. I had to look it up. Google, you can Google it. My professor told me that somewhere, it's in the vicinity of $20,000 worth of perfume. This jar, a whole pound, is a lot of perfume. It is very expensive. And Judas focuses on this thing, and he says, this thing could have been used to help the poor. And our commentary from John says, well, he probably would have taken some of that for himself, because he was a thief. Judas focuses on the worth of the thing, not on the worth of the one who is being anointed. Mary understands the difference and uses what she has in a new way to glorify God. What do you have in your life that's collecting dust? Maybe literally in your basement or in your attic, but maybe in the gifts that you haven't used in a while. What do you have that you could be giving for the glory of God? What do you have that you could give to Jesus, that you and Jesus could use together to glorify the one who loves us so deeply? Because Mary understands. In that room, Mary is the one who understands who Jesus is. Judas doesn't get it. Judas is the one who is on the outside. Later, he will be the one who leaves the garden, the area where the disciples gather. He is on the outside. He doesn't understand. He doesn't believe that Jesus is who he says he is. But Mary gets it. She gives what she has, this fragrant oil. She gives it to God. And this act foreshadows what will happen in a week and a half that we'll celebrate here on Maundy Thursday. The meal, and before the meal, what Jesus does with his disciples. Maybe taking Mary's example, he washes Jesus' feet. And then he tells his disciples, go and do likewise. Do this that I do to you. Serve others in a new way. Mary gets it. Judas doesn't. So the question for us today is to look at what we have. To look at what we have in our own lives. To look at what we have as a church. What here at Crossroads has been gathering dust, literally and metaphorically? What can we use in a new way to glorify God? What are we sitting on? What precious oil that's worth a lot of money are we sitting on that we could use in a new way? This congregation voted to be in partnership with our neighbors down the street at St. Paul's. And some of that's gone really well. And some of that maybe has been a little dusty. But in what ways can we use the resources we have to glorify God? To say we're going to do a new thing for Jesus. We are going to use fragrant oil. This fragrant oil that the gospel says fills the room with its aroma. It is so full and so abundant that you can't shake it off. You know, if someone, maybe some of you have baked bread before, right? Or your mom used to bake bread. That smell, right? It fills the whole house. This is the kind of smell that Jesus' love is like. It fills the whole house. How can we take what we have that's dusty and use it in a way to fill the whole house? The last thing that I remember about dust, right, from that cartoon, on Ash Wednesday, if you went to a worship service, someone said to you, "You are dust, and to dust you shall return." We remember in this time of Lent that we are dust, that our time on earth is limited. But we also remember that like sun coming through a window, we can shine. It depends on how you look at it. It depends on what you want to do with what you have. May we each look at what we have and use it to glorify the one who loves us so much. Amen. May it indeed be so.